Lost Ark is the most anticipated MMO to release in 2022 and is a free-to-play, top-down isometric MMO ARPG that has already been released in some regions with massive success. Amazon will be responsible for bringing the game to the West on February 11th, 2022, with early access starting on the 8th for those who wish to pre-purchase a supporter pack. The game features everything you'd expect from an MMO, such as group dungeons, intense raids, world bosses, life skills, crafting, player housing, and PvP. In this video, I'll be covering all of the things that are important to the success and enjoyment of any MMO to help you decide if Lost Ark is the right MMO for you in 2022. In this video, we'll cover solo content, group content, PvP, combat, cosmetic customization, population health, and monetization. First, let's start with the solo content. If you enjoy solo content in MMOs, you'll be glad to know that Lost Ark has no shortage of things to do. The game will start you off with a main story, which is good but definitely secondary to the action combat that fuels the game and keeps it sprinting forward. I'll dive more into the specifics of the combat later, but for now, we'll definitely toss it into the pros column for the game. I'll avoid spoilers, but the story goes a little something like this. Kazaroth is attacking the world as part of his search for the Lost Ark. The Lost Ark is a magical item that drove back evil long ago. You know it exists, and no one has seen it for a very long time. It turns out you may be the world's best chance to stop Kazaroth. Along your adventures, you'll unlock an incredibly robust housing system that you can use to craft things, as well as increase your ability to obtain valuable resources for upgrading your gear. Housing in Lost Ark is not just a place you can decorate, it is a fully functioning resource-generating machine that you can use to greatly reduce the cost of upgrading your gear and crafting consumables. You'll also unlock a ship that you can use to sail around the world, exploring far-off islands and continents, each with its own unique biome and story attached to it. Each of these island locations is filled with quests and collectibles to reward you for discovering and exploring them. There is also a tower in the game that you can climb one floor at a time, with each floor getting progressively harder and granting better rewards. One great incentive to run the tower is to accrue the skill points you need to finish your build, as simply leveling will not give you the skill points you need. This is due to the fact that many of your skill points will be tucked into activities like this. The game has dungeons that you can solo or group up for. As I was leveling, I tended to solo them with no problem at all, as soloing them made the final battle at the end a lot more challenging. The questing and story content is not difficult. Some might even say it's too easy. It will probably be a pretty relaxing journey to max level as far as the main story goes, with some pretty epic moments mixed in should you happen to encounter a world boss. But there is nothing I would call difficult until you hit max level and start participating in raid content. Speaking of, let's talk about the group content. Lost Ark is an MMO, and as you would expect, it is filled to the brim with group content. You can choose from a variety of dungeons, raids, and world bosses. The endgame raids are where the real difficult content is placed. With various tiers of content, you will be able to eventually unlock by increasing your item level. Each tier will be more difficult than the last and offer better rewards to match. There will be dungeons as you level up that are easier and can be soloed, and then also daily and weekly 5-player dungeons you can do once you hit max level. Of course, there will be raids, which can host between 8 and 16 players. These raids are where the hardest and most difficult content in Lost Ark can be found. They are heavy on mechanics, and while Lost Ark does not technically feature the holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, there are certainly a few standout support classes that are incredibly useful to have in this type of content. The primary quote-unquote tank is the Gunlancer, while the Bard is one of the two classes that might be considered a healer. It's worth noting that these so-called healers of the game don't dish out a ton of healing because their primary job is to do damage, just like you. They do have enough healing, however, to make a big difference, but you are very much responsible for knowing the mechanics and avoiding damage whenever possible. Healers aren't there to babysit you and wait for you to need heals. Healing is just something that they can help with in a pinch. Beyond that, you have things like PvE guild bosses that you can take down with friends for more rewards. Next, PvP. While it's unclear exactly how the cash shop will work and how or if the power sold within it will affect the PvE content, one thing we do know is that the PvP content is equalized so that no cash shop purchases can have any impact on it. Once you unlock PvP, it's purely about player skill. Your gear is equalized so that no one enters the fight with an advantage over anyone else. This is one place where I think PvP tends to fall apart in most MMOs, with battles rarely ever starting on a fair footing, as the veteran players will always have better gear and better better stats than the new player. In a way, with most MMOs, the winner was oftentimes decided before the fight even began, as the player with the higher level or the better gear was clearly going to win. As a result, the new players would tend to not participate in PvP until way later in their career, when they felt like they would finally be on a more equal footing. With the way Lost Ark approaches it, those who enjoy PvP can jump in at level 26 and be just as powerful as someone who is max level. They won't have the knowledge or the skill of the veteran, but at least the battle's not lost before it's even begun because of some stat gap. For those still learning the PvP ropes, there are non-competitive matches where you can casually unlock rewards. Alternatively, there are competitive matches that affect your seasonal PvP rank and can reward you with special, unique cosmetic effects, such as auras, that make it so that everyone will know they are looking at a high-ranked PvP player. The game features Team Deathmatch, where 2 teams of 3 fight to see which side gets the most kills. Then there is also a free-for-all deathmatch with 6 players who all fight it out to see who gets the most kills. This mode is mostly a chaotic mess where the person who gets the most kill steals wins. This can be frustrating or fun, depending on if you're the kill stealer or the kill stealee. Finally, there is a team elimination mode where 2 teams of 3 put 1 player into the arena at a time. If you go in first and take the enemy's first opponent down, you will stay in while the second opponent enters the arena. And when you're killed, your next teammate will enter to continue where you left off in the 1v1 fight. The team that eliminates all 3 players from the opposing team first wins. This is perhaps where PvPers' individual talents are able to shine the most. It is also where the game's PvP shines the most, as the 1v1 nature of the battles tends to allow for the most balanced fight. Now for combat. Combat is a critical component in any MMO, and the combat in Lost Ark is certainly one of its strengths. The abilities look and feel so satisfying. The game does a fantastic job of making you feel powerful. So how does it work? You've got a long list of abilities to choose from, and you can slot up to 8 at any one time. Each of these abilities can be upgraded and modified, allowing you to spec into your favorite abilities and then alter them to give them things like larger AoE radius or more damage or perhaps stun. Beyond that, your character will have an ultimate that you can pop off with and do big damage when activated. Each class in the game has its own skills and ultimates, and all of them are different and satisfying. If there ends up being anything that you don't like about Lost Ark, it probably won't be the combat. One of Lost Ark's greatest strengths is the massive diversity the game has between all of its classes. So let's touch on each one and find out which one's right for you. Choosing your class will likely be the first and most important decision you make, so let's dive in. Lost Ark will launch with 15 classes, with more to come in the future. These 15 classes are extensions of 5 base classes that you choose from first. The way this works is you will choose from one of the 5 following classes and then ascend it into your final class. The first base class that we will talk about is the Warrior, which is a hard-hitting and tanky class, but definitely not the most nimble. Your Warrior can ascend into either a Berserker, a Paladin, or a Gun Lancer. Berserkers are always powerful warriors with their high damage greatsword attacks and potent defense, but when they enter their burst mode, they're all but unstoppable. In this heightened state, they gain increased attack and movement speed and unlock a special skill that delivers a world of hurt to their enemies. Paladins have a direct line to the powers of the gods, channeling their ancient might into potent offensive and defensive moves alike. They can use holy skills and buffs with the Holy Book to support their team from behind, or wield a sword and bring punishing skills to bear on the front line. However, for the first line of defense, Gun Lancers take the brunt of enemy attacks with their defensive stance and battlefield shield to keep the rest of their party safe. While their Gun Lance is a formidable weapon, their true value derives from their ability to protect allies and absorb damage like a sponge. If you enjoy being a tank in MMOs, the Gun Lancer is the choice for you. The next base class is the Martial Artist. They're quick with fast combos and play very much like you would expect a martial artist class to play. The Martial Artist can ascend into a Soul Fist, Striker, War Dancer, and Scrapper. The first class that the Martial Artist can ascend into is the Soul Fist. The Soul Fist switches between melee and ranged attacks, which can be used together for explosively powerful combos. They channel a special energy called Adamants, which they can imbue into abilities or use to sustain themselves through fights. When it comes to the Soul Fist, just think Goku and DBZ, and you'll be right there. The Striker is a martial artist class that attacks enemies like a strong wind. Since he is equipped with a variety of physical skills with fast movements, he displays splendid aerial combos after hitting enemies quickly and uses powerful elemental skills to turn the tide of battle. Then there's the War Dancer. Not merely masters of martial arts, War Dancers augment their lightning-quick fighting skills with elemental power. They can store up elemental energy to unleash in devastating attacks and gravity-defying maneuvers. And then the final martial artist ascendancy is the Scrapper. Armed with a a heavy gauntlet, scrappers draw on two inverse forms of attack energy that feed off of each other to deliver non-stop destruction. With excellent attack, defense, mobility, and lasting power, they're well balanced enough to throw enemies off their guard. The next base class is the gunner. Whether wielding high-tech weapons or bows and arrows that never jam, keep an eagle eye on these sharpshooters, or they may even hit you with their worst shot. The first ascendancy is the gunslinger. With a gun for every occasion and the ability to switch between them quickly, gunslingers are deadly opponents at any range. Light on their feet, thanks to their cat-like reflexes, gunslingers are hard to pin down and quick to unload a flurry of shots on any unwary foe. The second gunner ascendancy is the artillerists. Artillerists believe in firepower and lots of it, blasting their enemies with some of the biggest guns under the sun. They may not be the most mobile fighters, but they make up for their lack of agility with huge mechanical launchers and other hard-hitting weapons, heavy armor, and incredible destructive force. The next ascendancy is Deadeye. With their flexible, triple-wielding playstyle and brash attitude, you might mistakenly suppose that this rough and tumble rogue has a death wish. They do, but don't worry, it's just for their opponents. They can choose the most effective weapons from an arsenal that includes a double handgun, shotgun, and rifle. And finally, the fourth ascendancy for the gunner is the sharpshooter. Sharpshooters are ranged attackers who use mechanical bows with special arrows that have custom effects. Their high survivability and agility keep them in the fight for the long haul, and their stealthy machinations are excellent for exploiting enemy weaknesses. The next base class we'll talk about is the mages. These mystical conjurers tap into an ancient magic of Arkesia to cast deadly spells on evil forces, heal the wounded, or support allies. The first option for mages ascendancy is the bard. Bards can evoke soothing serenades to heal their team or unleash a course of pain on their foes. Their attack power is rather low, but their ability to support allies makes them a harmonious part of the team. In other words, if you were looking to be a healer in Lost Ark, be sure to check out the bard. This is probably the primary healer choice in the game. However, if the bard isn't for you, you can also support heals with the paladin. The second mage ascendancy is the sorceress, which wields powerful magic based on 3 elements with spells that can deal area damage. They can easily handle multiple enemies, helping them dominate the battlefield. And then next, the final base class, the assassins. These mysterious melee assassins fight demonic with demonic, channeling the dark powers in the name of the good in quick and colorful attacks. The first ascendancy option for the assassins is the Shadow Hunter. Shadow Hunters prefer to beat the demons at their own game. They can shapeshift into powerful demonic forms to unleash chaotic power. When their inner demon is unleashed, Shadow Hunters get access to incredibly destructive powers and increase health and movement speed. The second and final ascendancy for the assassins is the Deathblade. The Deathblade is an assassin class that uses a total of 3 swords that they wield alongside the power of chaos to swiftly slash their foes. The fast-paced combo attacks from the light dual swords and longsword overpower their enemies, leading to death by 1,000 cuts. As you can see, you have 15 pretty incredible choices before you, and I don't blame you if you're having a hard time making a choice. Just remember, you can do great damage with every single one of these options. However, the Gun Lancer does a little bit less damage and is a way better tank than most. Similarly, the Bard does less damage but is a way better healer than most. The Holy Trinity does kind of exist in this game, but it's by no means required for a group to succeed. Next, cosmetic customization. Cosmetic customization is huge in any MMO. We want to be attached to our character, and we won't be unless we think it looks amazing. So how does Lost Ark do with cosmetics? Lost Ark definitely has that Eastern flair to it, so if you've never played an Eastern game, it may take a little getting used to. I grew up playing both Eastern and Western games, so it looks great to me. There are multiple ways to unlock cosmetics. The first and most obvious is to buy them. Lost Ark is a free-to-play game, which means they will be making money by selling cosmetics in the cash shop. Fortunately, there are also cosmetics that you can earn by playing the game. More importantly still, it's also worth noting that most of the cosmetics that you can buy with cash can also be bought in the auction house in-game with in-game currency. There is a massive variety of cosmetic appearances that you can earn, so everyone should be able to find something they like. I would say that the largest downside to the cosmetic customization is the gender-locked classes. The game has been working on adding the gender counterparts to each class one at a time so that there might eventually be a male and female version of every class. Interestingly, when they do add the male or female counterpart, the 2 gender variations come with new skills and a new look. In the end, the male and female are the same class, but also completely different. Population health. Lost Ark hasn't been released in the West yet at the time of recording this video, so while we do know that the game has been immensely popular overseas and has seen its population steadily grow over time, we have no idea what the population will be like here in the West, and just as important, how well it will hold. One thing that we can be certain of is that the launch will be massive. Lost Ark is the most anticipated MMO launch of 2022, and the population of the game is absolutely going to reflect this. Combine that with the fact that the game is free to play with no barriers to entry, and I don't see how this isn't one of the biggest games of 2022. Speaking of, let's dive into monetization. It's hard to complain about the monetization of Lost Ark. It's a free to play MMO, and it's actually a really well polished, high quality game for free. Now, of course, because it's free to play, you're going to have to deal with things that come with free to play titles, such as the option to pay for convenience or pay to advance faster. The game's monetization model will be the best part of the game for many players, while it's the worst part of the game for others. I see this as likely being the most contentious topic surrounding its release. But because it's free and the players have nothing to lose by trying it, I expect that most will at least give it a try, despite any reservations they might have. The game does feature an optional subscription that is basically going to allow you to forego the process of farming materials on alternate characters if you wish. Conversely, if you choose to go completely free to play, you can keep up with the people paying for the subscription, but you'll likely need to level up some alts and do their dailies to keep up. Whether you care about keeping up with someone in a PvE game is entirely up to you. Any advantages gained through these pay for convenience and pay to advance faster mechanics are kept out of the PvP section of the game, as everyone's character is equalized for PvP. PvP comes down to player skill and nothing else. That, at least, is great to see. The sum total effect of the cash shop on PvE is something we'll have to wait and find out about. In summary, the solo content in Lost Ark is fun and plentiful. The top-down view may take a little getting used to if you haven't played an ARPG before, but Lost Ark is a massive, beautiful world that you'll likely enjoy exploring on foot or on a boat. You can also solo dungeons or towers and engage in housing or PvP. The solo player will not have a hard time finding something to do in Lost Ark. As for those who enjoy group content, Lost Ark has you covered. It has raids, dungeons, and world bosses covering a wide range of difficulty levels. It's here where the game will really feel like an MMO as you work together with friends and guildmates to take down the hardest challenges the game has to offer. The PvP in Lost Ark is mostly about timing your stuns and your combos to incapacitate and kill your enemies before they have time to recover. It's fast-paced and skill-based, as none of your gear carries into the PvP arenas with you. As such, the PvP will not be pay to win, and that, I think everyone can agree on, is a great thing. Well, maybe the whales won't like this, but when the whales don't like something, that's almost always a good thing for the health and longevity of the game. Combat. As for combat, it's one of the game's high notes. Your abilities look amazing, they feel impactful, and the sound design attached to them will leave you feeling like a god. One thing is consistent when I listen to the community talk about Lost Ark, and that is, everyone says the combat is amazing. Population. The game hasn't launched yet, but it's expected to be the biggest MMO launch of 2022, and I suspect it will break quite a few more records than that. The fact that it's free to play with no barriers to entry, on top of being an incredibly well-made AAA title, ensures a massive showing for this MMO. Finally, monetization. It's pretty easy. The game's free to play, with pay to advance faster, pay for convenience, and pay for cosmetics. As free to play models go, it's pretty standard, and it's going to be the thing that divides the old guard and the new on whether Lost Ark is going to be an MMO worth playing. The optional sub is going to be great for improving the quality of life and obtaining cash shop cosmetics. So is Lost Ark worth playing in 2022? Yes, absolutely. It's a polished AAA game that's had massive success and will likely experience the same success here in the West. Best of all, it's free to play, so worst case scenario, you try it and decide it's not for you and lose nothing in the process. The monetization will be a controversial topic, and it will be interesting to see how that all plays out with a Western audience. So let me know, will you be playing Lost Ark, and if so, what class are you gonna go with? I'm leaning towards playing the Berserker again. I can't help myself, I love big swords. If you're still here, consider giving the video a like and possibly even subbing for more Lost Ark and MMO content. If you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves MMOs, swing by my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/luckyghost. And a special thanks to my YouTube members. If you want to become a YouTube member and find out what that offers, check out my members page linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.